You get anything?
No, there's nothing, and when there is something, it's green and blurry, and so I don't know. Hold on.
Is it his hair? His hair is green.
Yeah, this isn't gonna work, Brett. I mean, this thing isn't. It's not coming in clear.
I don't.
But can you try and take that fucking thing with all the buttons on it and point it like a little closer to it, maybe?
I mean, I'm trying, dude. I don't know how to program a laser dish.
Yeah, well, it's a. Yeah,
This
I know.
remote
This is
crazy,
new
dude.
technology
There's like
too. It's a
there's
satellite
like
disc.
30
and
buttons on it, and
it's
I
like,
I
yeah,
don't know what
know.
any of this stuff on the screen
Give me a
does.
second.
I
don't. He got it. Damn it, Sean. Brett, where's the speaker? Where's the speaker?
I don't know how to do this, man. I've never programmed a satellite
If I don't
disc
know where to
before.
hear it, I don't know if he's calling or. Sean.
You see anything at all?
No, I mean, it's fine. We have all night to do this because it'll
Yeah,
be
but I'm
in the
cold.
morning, but
You can't see
I
anything.
mean, yeah, right.
Here, drink some of that. Now check it again. See if that helps.
All right.
Is it less blurry now?
Say what?
Is it less blurry than it was?
It looks clear.
So more wine?
No, I don't need that. I need you to get up there on the roof and work on fixing.
I'm not going up there.
You don't need to just keep crying. You don't need to just keep crying to give me more wine either.
Are you sure? It's
I
pretty
don't
good.
want no more.
It's good though.
I want to get you with your big calculator set up and get everything up with the laser dish.
Fine.
No more antiquated bands. We're embracing technology this season. It's season 2 with DJ Belushi. I didn't say Nights. Welcome to Nights on TV in the Morning. We have a very special guest with us. He is the CEO, owner of Tree Frog, and the songwriter behind the smash Rectangular, Sean Stevens. Everybody, let's give a hand for Sean. Yeah. So Sean, thanks for taking the time to do our little TV show, which is Nights on TV. This is Nights in the Morning. We're trying something out for this new season. So this is the first installation of that. So
don't thank me. I thank you. I appreciate being on your show. It's great.
yeah, well, as Brett mentioned, probably he's been following your work for a while now, and as far as like the songwriting and stuff like that. And we sort of did a deep dive this past week on basically anything, your older music, the stuff that's available to listen to on Spotify and on the streaming platforms. And you're a great guitarist. Like you're so good. It almost it was kind of reminding us of this band called Joan of Arc, and we wondered if you had ever heard of them. They're from Chicago.
I have not heard of Joan of Arc. Maybe I should need to look them up.
Yeah, maybe you would like
Oh,
it.
thanks. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. What are your sort of like musical influences?
Someone was saying the other day on TikTok, I think that they can't figure out what genre of music I write. And listen, I have that problem myself. I'm sure if you listen to any of my past music, I don't know, I have 70, 80 songs on Spotify at this point. You'll notice there is no consistent genre, and that's been a massive problem. So realistically, I don't know how much you know about my history, but I grew up all over the world. My family were musicians. My father was in a fairly well-known Canadian band.
Famous Canadian band. What's the band? Would we know them?
Yeah, well, you might not know them. So there's a famous Canadian musician named David Wilcox. If you know David Wilcox, he wrote sort of "Do the Bear Cat" and "Some People Call Me a Bad Apple," and some other, so I say, famous Canadian things, call them. And he in high school, my father was in a band. David Wilcox was a guitarist, and my father was the singer and songwriter.
Okay.
And so my father gave up the rock and roll lifestyle and became a missionary in Africa. Like, went to completely the opposite direction of David Wilcox, was to more follow the line of cocaine into the bathroom.
Wow.
He's gotten better since. I did a lot of shows with his daughter many years later, like a decade ago. We used to travel together. So yeah, and there's some other sort of interesting spin-offs that happened from him and from those bands. So the connectivity of the Canadian music scene and other music scenes is, I can say, incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big Gord Downie fan. I was actually listening. I was listening to some of his stuff on the way to work this morning, thinking about be talking to you and how much of a staple he feels or felt to be in that Canadian music scene, sort of beloved.
He's one of the true greats. There's some other bands. Yeah, I'm not sure if you heard of Big Sugar. So they're a fairly well-known Canadian band, and the bassist from Big Sugar is actually the bassist all over a lot of my work. He unfortunately died a few years ago of the Big C, but he was amazing, like just an amazing musician.
The Big C, COVID or cancer?
Oh, I guess there's two now, aren't there? No, cancer in this case. Yeah, I need to clarify that. I just hate to say the word cancer, right?
Yeah, it's the worst. It's the worst. Yeah, it actually really is the worst. Do you play live or anything, or have you toured for your music at all?
And now, an intimate performance from Coughing Dove.
What if I can't dance? I get caught on the words I practiced that I personally wrote.
great.
A lot of people like this song. A lot of people like this song.
Running a series of companies, which are all growing like crazy, and they're super fun, and I love them all. The music thing is taking off, which is, unexpectedly. I mean, I've been writing music for 1,000 years, and suddenly now everybody's paying attention. So the timing is fascinating. And I'm also a really engaged dancer. So there's a dance called bachata. I'm not sure if you've heard of it. It's like sensual salsa is a nice way of looking at it.
Okay.
I'm probably 5 nights a week dancing with teams and with groups and with other stuff. And so between those 3 things, and then I have kids. So my kids, which they look after themselves, they're awesome, but they in fact look after me, which is nice. But we do a lot of things. I'm doing things like I'm climbing Kilimanjaro in a few months, so I'm training to climb as well as do all the other things.
Yeah. Yeah, you seem pretty deep into anything that you're working on. Like you're talking about like doing the dancing, like, and you're doing it 4 or 5 nights a week. Like you seem like you really commit to these things. And even hearing you talk about sort of like your ideology of like the work-life balance and how that should be a grayer thing. I think that's really cool, actually. It's an interesting philosophy. And I think there are so many like CEO or like owner CEOs that are like, kind of like pieces of shit, really. You know what I mean? And they don't.
Dude, I know a lot of them.
they don't consider being engaged in being creative, or it's just like very bland. And it's pretty apparent that that's something that's important to you, is to like, keep engaging yourself with new and interesting things. And you're
So I'm deeply involved in the CEO world. So I'm a speaker on AI and artificial intelligence, and I've done over 100 presentations this year alone on artificial intelligence. So maybe 2,000 CEOs I've sat down with, and I'm friends with many. And what I've learned from CEOs is that there are ones that just completely focus on like just win, grow, kick ass, doesn't matter who we hurt along the way. Just the goal is more money, more money, more money, more money, more money, and whatever it takes to get there. And capitalism is set up for those people to be successful. And all of life revolves on the leverage of others. And then the question is, can you leverage other people and you mutually succeed, or do you have to leverage people and screw them along the way? That's sort of as I would see it.
Sure.
But what happens to the CEOs who get to the end of their lives and they've got nobody left? I mean, they've got a few core important friends. And that's often that they sort of live their life away, but many of them are, not friendless, but really don't know what to do. They end up without any direction at 60 or 70 and going, what should I do with the rest of my life? Like, why do I exist? And oh my God, people are hurt, and they have such personal guilt and need a ton of therapy. And why not like help as many people as you possibly can along the way? Which I will note, the mission of Tree Frog, the business that you're sitting here in front of, it's help other people to be wildly successful, and in return become wildly successful yourself. That's
sure.
And so we help other businesses, we help other people, and then when we help other people, people love us and want to give us more money, and it's kind of like, well, it's great. Let's keep growing.
Works for everyone.
Exactly. And if all CEOs had that attitude, I mean, the problem is I'm probably the brokest ass CEO out there compared to many of my. Like I was a CEO group of 12 people, and I think 7 of them sold for over $100 million in the last 2 years.
Wow.
So they're like next level success if all you're looking at is money.
Sure.
And I like to look at just having an amazing ride along the way, helping as many people as I can. And maybe I'll make it to $100 million and maybe, in my bank account. I don't feel the need to have that.
Sure.
I mean, is that really that important? I mean, whoever dies with the most money in their bank account wins the game. Whatever.
You can't take it with you.
Exactly.
I'm good.
And now it's time for Night's Karaoke with Coughing Dove, performing Whitney Houston's Greatest Love of All.
I believe the children are our future. Teach them well and let them lead the way. Show them all the beauty they possess inside. Give them a sense Everybody's laughter remind us how we used to be. Everybody's searching for a hero. People need someone to look up to. I never found anyone who could fulfill my needs. A lonely place to be. So I learned to depend on me. I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I've lived as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they can't take away my dignity. Because the greatest love of all is happening to me. I found the greatest love of all inside of me. The greatest love of all is easy to achieve. Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all.
Now let's check back in on Casey's interview with Sean Stevens.
Yeah, it's interesting. So literally today, the place that I went before when I couldn't get a hold of you in the first few minutes to get on the show, I actually went off with another landlord to look at another space because we're changing our space right now. And the reason for that is we have this huge space at 12,000 square feet. It's not that big, but it's big enough. And we have, about 50 employees, and of those employees, one comes to work.
Oh, wow.
And the reason for it's not that it's a gorgeous office. There's free beer at the office. There's a nap room at the office. There's a Lego room at the office. There's a recording studio at the office. But the reason someone would go to
Sign me
work,
up.
you're more likely to find somebody there on a Friday night, having drinks, or going to sort of meet somebody and have a lunch and hang out. More likely to use it as, I'm going to say, a clubhouse over actually working from there. In fact, the fish rots from the head down. I work from home. I'm at home right now. This is my house, right?
Hey!
Before COVID, we wanted to create an office that was a better place to be than at home. So
Yes.
we bought top of the line desks, top of the line chairs. They
These are nice chairs.
health positive chairs. When you sit in this chair, you actually get healthier, as opposed to most chairs. If you sit in, you get less healthy.
This one certainly ain't making me healthy. Going frontward and going off.
right?
We write a little script. We have been working on a script for a movie, and we're sort of looking to get that made sometime, shoot that. But
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I did want to talk to you about your sort of like your public persona or like perception, really, because it's really like the internet is a really wild place, and there's a lot of like nasty stuff on the internet, pretty negative people, I think, and some of that energy people are so hateful, like about the stuff that you do, about your music, like the trolling and stuff like that. And it's like, and also I should note the song, one of your most recent songs, "Hate Me," that you released, addresses a lot of this, where the song is basically like, you're saying like, if somebody wants to hate on you or whatever, I'll take that from you and just be good to yourself. That's all I'll say back to you, hate me, that's fine, but I'll.
Actually, what's interesting here, and the reason why I wrote "Hate Me," my artist friends of mine were reaching out to me, and at every level. I'm deeply involved in the dance and acting and music worlds. And so people are reaching out to me and just being like, wow, I can't believe how cruel people are being. Like you're putting yourself out there and you're just being nice and now and then your music sucks, you suck, your teeth are too white and blah blah blah. Reality is my teeth are too white. It's fun. When I look at the big picture, I actually feel bad for all the other artists. And the reason for that is I have a really solid ego. I mean, I've had an amazing life. Like I'm the luckiest man alive. You got to understand. So when I look at everybody being mean to me, I'm like, hey, they don't really know who I am. They don't know my history. They haven't read my biography. They probably haven't even listened to an entire song of what I've written. They're listening to 5 bars of something, and then they're judging me on it.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't care. I care about the people who are close to me and love me. I care, and I'm interested in finding people who appreciate my art. And if you don't, I'm cool with that. Like everybody has their own vision, reason to exist, etc.
Right.
I wrote "Hate Me" for the concept of to help other artists experience this, because a lot of them said, "This is why I'm never putting my stuff on social media." I'm like, dude, you're an amazing artist. Why? Like, stop. You got to get your stuff out there. And they're like, no, look at what happened to you. So number one, and the reality is, if you've listened to 5 seconds of me and you don't know anything about me, why would I care what your opinion is? I mean, if you know me and you become close friends and you call me out on being a dink, then I accept that I am, and I'll change my behavior and I'll become a better person. So similar.
That's all you can do.
Yeah, like 5 minutes.
5 minutes left?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Okay, sorry, sorry about the flies too.
They're not bugging me.
Oh, yeah, I guess you're not, yeah. What's the last Fire track you heard?
The last what?
Fire track.
The last
Like banger.
Banger Fire. The last Fire track. Actually, last night I was working at the studio listening to my new track, which is about to come out. And I gotta say, I'm so stoked about it, man. And then my wakes up this morning with strep throat, so we'll see if I get sick. It's originally called "She Don't Care," but now it's going to be called "Square" because the obviously connection to rectangle. So it's "She Don't Care that you're square" is the concept.
Yeah, I loved hearing you talk about "I'm Rectangular" too. Like when you were saying basically like that song is about your experience and like meeting people and trying to connect with people, and everyone else is circular, and you're like, I guess I'm rectangular. Like I'm proud of it, like to own it. Do you have any dating advice or anything like that? How's that going for you? Because you said that was sort of in conjunction with that. So.
Do I have any dating advice? I don't think I have any dating advice. I mean, dating advice is stop thinking about trying to date people and then get out there and do fun and cool and amazing things through life, and suddenly you're surrounded by opportunity.
It's advancing.
I am surrounded by opportunity. I've had like 20 people. I mean, obviously it's been a little bit different recently, but in the last week, I've had 20 people ask to marry me, which has been pretty funny.
Wow. Maybe make it 21.
Sorry?
Maybe make it 21.
21. Sorry, man. I should probably not admit this in public, but I've been married twice.
Okay.
So I have failed everything.
Well, that's all right. You have experience now, and the third time I think will be the charm for you. But you've been through it a couple times, so you're like, I know how to do this.
Exactly. My children say that I'm good at everything but staying married.
What does it take, or what are you looking for at Tree Frog for somebody to work at Tree Frog? Like, what do you look for in a frog?
Wow, great question. Well, so Tree Frog isn't really a specific thing. I'm not sure if you watched my TED Talk or watched. Like, Tree Frog is about. Oh, awesome! So it's not about creating a product or service. That's an anachronistic concept, in my opinion. What it is about agreeing that we're going to do things via specific type of behavior. And then finding things that we can do to help other people with that behavior in mind.
Sure.
So I can say the values of Tree Frog, so the way we behave, is the primary value is love. So we treat everybody with respect, basically, with respect, dignity, appropriately. And that means everybody we're working with, everybody working outside with. So people come to Tree Frog and usually say it's the best place they've ever worked. Usually, not everybody has that experience, to be honest. I mean, it's still people dealing with people, and personality conflicts are personality conflicts. But from myself on down, there is no throwing chairs. There is no inappropriate behavior. We all treat each other all the time with respect and dignity. So, well, number one, I'm looking for people that are just great, awesome people.
Well, I have one final question actually, but I will just say, Brett and I will be up on We'll be up on Monday. We'll see you on Monday morning. Okay. Ready to work. If you could hire a dream music video director, like unlimited budget, who would you hire as your dream music video director?
A dream music video director. You know, the guy I'm working with now, did you see the Rectangle video?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that great?
It is.
So, like, I found this guy, Pierre Thiep, Wild Rabbit Entertainment, and he is just like at the beginning of his career, just got out of film school, and it's not really a music video; it's like a movie.
Yes.
A 3-minute movie about a guy with a box on his head. Like the budget for the music video was buying a cardboard box, right?
Is it right there?
I love it.
That's awesome.
I have to admit, my goal for that music video originally was Minecraft costumes, because nobody's figured this out yet. But the whole song is originally about Minecraft. Like, I am rectangular, and I like meeting a girl in a Minecraft world, and so that sort of idea that I am a Minecraft. So I was just going to nail that in because nobody was getting it by going and getting Minecraft costumes, and then we'd walk around in Minecraft costumes, right?
My son plays Minecraft.
Yeah, right. And if you play Minecraft, you love Minecraft. The last sound in Rectangle, nobody's figured this out yet, is a Minecraft sound. So your son won't know it. Go play it for him. They'll be like, "That's this sound." I won't say which sound, because if you know it, you know it. If you don't know it, you don't know it.
His mom will play it for him. He's circular. You know what I mean?
Right. There you go.